Hello out there. My name is Laolu Akonde, and you are on to Inside Sources. And here is my take for today. I'm looking at the illustrious Nigerians who shaped 2025, part 2. This is continued from the last few editions. In part 1, we had mentioned among Inside Sources persons of the year 2025 a number of notable Nigerians, such as Mr. Aliko Dangote, for the increasing positive impact of the Dangote refinery in our country, such as Abdul Samad Rabi of Bua, the socially conscious billionaire who gave 30 billion to his staff in an end-of-the-year company appreciation last December, making some employees instant billionaires. We had mentioned also Dr. Tunji Alausa, the reform-minded education minister who is making game-changing moves in that sector, such as significantly raising federal funding, settling old disputes of several years, possibly decades, such as with ASU, and possibly on the verge of ending university strikes as we know it. And also, lastly, we mentioned Mr. Tosin Ajayi, the Director General of the DSS, who has been notably named a defender of press freedom in Nigeria, coming from an agency that we all know had an history of media suppression in our country. Now, that is impressive. Now, today, we want to continue with that list of Nigerians that are shaping our country's future for the better. Just before we had the sad news of our son's passing, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who has managed to weave our community and all of us Nigerians in our global success story, was next on our list of persons of the year. But we must now pause on the recognition of Chimamanda for now and rather condole with her at this moment of grief. It is unimaginable the pain of the loss of a child. So our hearts and prayers are with Chimamanda, our husband, and the entire family. We pray that the good Lord will grant them the fortitude to bear the depth of this loss. And may she, in particular, receive good news again. Now, for today, we will proceed with two other Nigerians who were outstanding in 2025, and this is the penultimate part of the Inside Sources Persons of the Year 2025. Here we go. Justice Ellen Ogunwumiju. The March 2025 Supreme Court dissenting judgment by Justice Ogunwumiju in the Sunday Jackson's case was an act of national redemption. It was a powerful reminder that justice is the foundation of a healthy society. And I quote, "The absence of justice creates a blinding effect among the people," unquote, like she noted. When justice is lacking, raw power takes over, and that's a recipe for disaster. It was Ogunwumiju's courageous stand that provoked the release of Sunday Jackson from the travesty of justice that took away 10 years and 10 months of his years, seeing him suffer the pain and the undeserved agony and shame of the death row. Ogunwumiju's bold dissent highlighted the importance of self-defense and the need for a moral compass in our judicial system. Our ruling gave hope to Nigerians and showed that one person can make a big difference. Justice Ogunwumiju's expedient, bold voice of dissent in that Jackson case singularly corrected a troubled judicial system that had already given up on an innocent man. Our action is a salutary inspiration to a nation that we can say is in judicial distress. We need more justices like Ogunwumiju, who aren't afraid to stand alone and stand alone fearlessly. Now, our next person is in that same episode. We're talking about Ado Bawuro, a Fulani man, the father of the deceased elder who attacked Sunday Jackson in his farm about 11 years ago, is our next person of the year 2025. we must celebrate Ado Bawuro's extraordinary compassion for supporting Jackson's release despite his own son's death and his own pain of bereavement. This act of Bawuro transcends ethnic and religious divides, showing the power of our common humanity and the power of unity. And it was also an example to our political elites who use ethnicity and religion to divide us for their own personal gains. Bawuro taught us a better lesson. So the two examples of Ogunwumiju and Bawuro inspire us to strive for a society where justice, compassion, and unity work together and prevail. And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. I want to go on a very important conversation on the future of Nigeria and some of the things that have been happening in the Middle Belt, what we are seeing around security, around persecution, issues of genocide and whatnot, because it's important to have this conversation, especially with people who understand what is happening on the ground. And such a person is joining me today, an eminent Nigerian who is the president and CEO of the Gideon and Funmi Para Mallam Peace Foundation. He's also a global missions leader and a social justice and peace advocate. I'd like to welcome for the first time to Inside Sources, Reverend Dr. Gideon Para Mallam. Dr. Gideon, good to see you in Inside Sources.
Thank you. It's my privilege. I must commend you. You have a way of getting your message across, so many of us actually watch you. You may not know this.
Thank you.
So it's a privilege to be here.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the work you do globally. You know, I've known you for quite a long time. But let's open the conversation. Normally, I ask my guests that if you look at where Nigeria is today, do you think we are moving in the direction of greatness, which many of us, and I'm sure including you, believe is the destiny of our country to be great?
Yeah, thank you so much. To be honest, I personally believe that Nigeria is going to be a great country in spite of some of the challenges that we're experiencing at the moment. I see myself as an incurable optimist that Nigeria will rise from the current or present ashes that she's experiencing and subjected to. But whether Nigeria is moving in that direction now, I have my doubts, I have my fears. But I have to look beyond those doubts and look beyond those fears. And that's what I want to encourage our viewers to think about the future. Pardon me to use the illustration of the nation of Israel, because as I began to speak, my mind drifted to look at Israel. And of course, there are many other countries that I can also bring into this conversation. Israel was one country that had all kinds of confused starts. Israel had all kinds of corruption, problems, corruption, idol worship, disobedience to God, you name it. Israel exhibited all of those. And it's part of their disobedience that led Israel to go into the 70 years captivity in the then Babylonian Empire. But you know, Jeremiah the prophet prophesied that after those 70 years, they'll go back to Israel. And that's exactly what happened. And so I don't want to spiritualize what Nigeria is going through, but you also can't take away the divine element of what Nigeria is going through at the moment. I describe Nigeria as one country, and all of us have to take responsibility to change Nigeria by first being the change ourselves before we expect other people. Because we're one country, Nigeria is very religious, intensely religious. But the missing link for me is that there's more religiosity but less godliness. And what you need for Nigeria to attain greatness is not the religiosity, but the godliness in exhibiting the basic things, the basic values that would allow Nigeria to shun corruption, Nigerians to shun corruption, both at the high level and at the lower level, all over. And for those in governance to govern for the good of the people rather than their own personal advancement or the advancement of their family members or their political associates or cronies, you know. So there are a few things that needs to be done morally that would help to fix Nigeria, both morally and spiritually, to fix Nigeria on that path of greatness. Of course, I'm conscious that there is need to have the right economic policies, to practice the kind of democracy that allows inclusiveness. I'm also aware that many people say, oh, no need for democracy. But I wouldn't completely say yes to that. Okay. Democracy can work if we choose to make it work.
Okay. I mean, thank you for those opening comments. I want you to expand a little bit when you talked about Nigeria is more about the religiosity, less about the godliness. And what we need is, we need more of the godliness. I agree with you entirely. But I wanted to ask you, so who should we as a people hold responsible primarily for that to lead the charge in us being more godly in our behavior, conduct, and speech rather than being religious? Who should we hold responsible primarily for that?
Thank you. For the side of the Christians, because Nigeria is both multi-religious, multi-ethnic, and multicultural. So we have to accept that we're a country that is not just one religion, but multiple religious influence across Nigeria. So I pick first with the Christians. I think the Christians need to do more to teach how Christians should be godly and to model their lives after the life of the Lord Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ modeled humility. He modeled simplicity in the way he lived. He modeled service. In fact, his leadership style was one that was called servant leadership. That's what he practiced. That's what he modeled. And there are too many things I can pick about Christ. And so a lot of the teachings from our churches, because I'm taking this point to take us to the churches, is the need to teach Christians to be more like Christ. If great minds, the apostle of non-violence, like Mahatma Gandhi from India, who was Hindu, he saw something great about the teachings of Christ. So Mahatma Gandhi actually took his ideas of non-violence, struggle, and resistance to the British colonial government. He actually picked that from the teachings of Christ, where the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount, you know, basic things that Jesus taught. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness. Blessed are those who are meek. Blessed are those who, when they persecute you, you submit, but not in the way that, you know, we see in Nigeria. Jesus Christ just modeled how a society can live normal. A society can be godly. A society can honor God in the way they do things. So if our teachings from the pulpits can follow that Christocentric approach to theology, it will help us a lot to be a people that are not just going to be religious by just going to church, but will be godly in the content of our lives and character and the way we also transform society. Whether you are in government, you are in the bank, you are teaching in school, wherever you are, you know, all those models will show up. And I go straight to the same thing, that there are Muslims in this country, and Muslims have a responsibility It's not just enough to say that Islam is a religion of peace. You've got to show it. You've got to demonstrate it, that hatred needs to be out of the religion that you preach. Because a lot of hatred, take it or leave it, has actually come from many of the mosques, the sermons we hear on Friday. Many of them are very abusive. Many of them are very intimidating. Many of them are very discouraging. And as a peace builder, I'm saying some of these things. By no means am I trying to profile the Muslim preachers, but the Muslim preachers, clerics need to do more to promote peace, to model exactly what they say, that Islam is a religion of peace.
Just like you are also pressing Christian leaders to also ensure that they preach servant leadership.
Exactly.
Okay, so essentially, we should be holding our religious leaders responsible.
That's
for our character as a nation.
That's exactly the point I was making before I come to start calling names. I think that if this country is going to really be great, then the preachers, whether they're Christians or they're Muslims, need to change their approach in both understanding and interpreting the Quran, in understanding and interpreting the Bible, because our religion is something else when it comes to Nigeria.
Interesting.
Not that it's all bad.
Oh,
there are very positive aspects,
absolutely,
but we need to do more to develop the country.
Yeah, I mean, and talking about, some of the things that can actually become strength in the diversity. I come from Southwest Nigeria. And, one of the least of our problems is the interrelationship between Christians and Muslims. Entirely, almost completely absent tension, so I see the point in that, and of course, I'm trying to also get you to really go to the heart of the matter, because we know these things. We know that a lot of Nigerians are Christians or Muslims and other African traditional religions, but we don't see it in our character. We don't see it in the character of our leaders, not just political leaders. We don't see it in the character of some of our religious leaders, some of our business leaders, and so I begin to wonder that where should we start? But, you've given us a clue that, it's probably from what we are listening to.
Yes.
Okay.
Completely. I do agree. And I completely even agree with you. And thank you again for using your show for these kinds of thoughts to come out. The truth of the matter is that Nigeria cannot be fixed only by the politicians. The politicians have their role to play in fixing Nigeria because they're part of the problem. Unfortunately, the preachers, particularly Christian preachers, even have a much more higher role than the politicians in fixing the problems of Nigeria, because they have to model what the Bible truly teaches. And without hesitation, no doubt, the Muslim clerics have a lot to do.
Interesting. So it will seem, in our conversation, that the African traditional clerics, they seem to be doing a good job.
Yeah, you are a fantastic journalist. I can see now, because I wanted to say something. Okay, so of course in Nigeria, as I said, it's multi-ethnic. So you have what we call the ATRs, African Traditional Religion.
Right.
But let's also face it, significantly in the 18th century and in the 19th century and the 20th century, significant growth of Christianity took place in Nigeria. So most of the ATR's people have actually become Christians. So it's not that they do not exist, but they are a very small minority in the country.
Yeah, I just made that point just as a way to segue. So let's now come to what I want you to talk about also. What is happening in the Middle Belt? It has been the focus of international sources, especially in the past year. Tremendous killings. Despicable killings. I want to use Benue, in Plateau, where the tensions seem to have simmered in southern Kaduna. I don't know whether that's your view. And then, of course, we now had the opportunity of the American president saying that, look, hey, I'm going to get involved in what is going on here. I see, a Christian genocide. I see Christians being persecuted. And then on Christmas Day, the man actually, showed up and sent Tomahawk missiles against terrorists in the northwestern part of the country. So I want us to spend a little bit of time talking about this. What's your own take, to what has happened, what has become that narrative around genocide and the involvement of the Americans?
So let me begin by, again, thanking your program, Insider Sources, or Inside Sources, because you've actually done a lot to highlight some of these issues around the killings. And I think it's also good to commend the media. Generally, Channels has done a great job. Other sister media houses have actually done a great job. I know that there's criticisms, from outside that the Nigerian media has not been talking a lot about some of these things, Well, because I engage the media, so I know the media basically has been reporting some of these things, but not as they should. However, every idea has its time. This is the time now for us in this nation. This is the time now for the entire world to focus on the unacceptable killings taking place in Nigeria. And Middle Belt has become a battleground for no reason. Unfortunately, I wish I could say it's a battle of two forces, but it's basically one force ravaging the whole of the Middle Belt and killing so many people. And because it's about the Middle Belt, I will limit my comments only on the Middle Belt. And when it's necessary, I can touch on other killings in other parts of Nigeria. Boko Haram, okay? Bandits in the northwest, Boko Haram in the northeast, all of those things, at the end of the day, unless something is done, you're going to have a coordination of non-state actors that will eventually destroy this country, take over this country. But
if
I'm
care
glad,
is not taken.
If care is not taken, and if action is not taken, but I'm glad something has happened. The killings in the Middle Belt is unbearable. I live in the Middle Belt. I see it. All those places you mentioned. Southern Kaduna, I've visited multiple times. I've seen dead bodies of what you don't want to see. Let me even add, unfortunately, that the killings are still going on in some parts of Southern Kaduna. Kajuru local government remains a killing field. They're still kidnapping people. They're still killing people. It's going on literally almost on a daily basis.
Oh, wow.
So I'm glad that this opportunity was provided for me to highlight this, that killings are still going on in Southern Kaduna, particularly the Kajuru area. There used to be terrible killings in Zangon Kataf, in Chukun areas, but that has reduced.
And now shifted to Kajuru.
Exactly. No, there were killings in Kajuru before, and then it went quiet, and then suddenly it began to pick up from late 2024, all of 2025, basically killings. Now in 2026, we've entered, they're still doing killings. In Kajuru. And Kauru. Kauru, local government.
Okay.
Yes, there's Kauru and there's Kaura.
Okay.
Yes, and there's Kajuru. Yes. And also Kachia. Kachia local government was not having too many killings, but a lot of killings are taking place in Kachia local government right now.
Are all these local governments, are they close to each other?
They're close to each other's border towns, very close, okay? You drive just all around Southern Kaduna. So lots of killings are still going on. Now, I'm not saying a lot has been done to reduce those killings in Zangon Kataf in particular. I think we must give credit to the former Chief of Defense Staff, General Musa Christopher Gwabim. Yes, he's from there. But he did his best. And his impact was felt in the fact that the killings got reduced. But we thank God, now he's defense minister.
As defense minister, yeah.
Exactly. So he has a chance to do more for all of Nigeria. Right. And I think he's moving in that direction. Yeah. And we need to encourage him to do more to stop those killings. Yeah. You know what?
Yeah.
I personally believe that if General Christopher, now the Honorable Minister of Defense, gets his acts together working together with the current CDS, working together with the current chief of army staff, the current chief of defense staff, if they just get their acts together and work for the interest of Nigeria, and they get the political support of the president, and I'm talking about President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, right. If they can just form that consortium of facing the current insecurity and the killings, whether it is Boko Haram, it is Lakurawa in the northwest Sokoto, Kebbi, and the rest of them, and all that's happening in the Middle Belt. By the way, actually I call them the three triumvirate of evil: Boko Haram, armed Fulani herdsmen in the Middle Belt, because they're the ones doing most of those killings, and then of course what some people call Fulani militia group, and then of course the bandits in the northwest. Okay, if the president can gather the political will, it is possible to defeat those people. They can be defeated. And steps are being taken.
Yeah.
And those steps will help us to see an end to the killings. But Nigerians have got to cooperate with them. Terrorist sympathizers amongst us have got to now say enough is enough and seek an end and expose these terrorists, whether it's from the northeast, northwest, or north central, the Middle Belt areas. If we all put our acts together, it can be defeated. And I appeal to Mr. President never to allow himself, when he gets an advice that this is what we need to do to end the killings, I appeal to Mr. President not to go back and allow other people, so-called security experts, to come with counter-arguments and make you believe otherwise, and they will end up in the same quagmire. Right now, the fight against the terrorists is gaining momentum, whether it's in Katsina. In Katsina, the Air Force did some bombing in which I heard the local people in Hausa saying, the end of these people is coming. The end of these attackers is coming. From fellow Muslims. That's a positive thing. The president needs to just listen to the people. He's giving them responsibility to end the killings.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I must say, you know, regarding General Musa, that I believe that his return, you know, as Minister of Defense indicates that the president seemed to have understood that he needed to make a shift in terms of who he listens to, you know, in some of these matters. Do you share that view?
Well, you know, when General Musa was removed, let's take it, quite frankly, some of us were a little bit disappointed. But then we said, okay, let's give this thing space to see what happens. And then all of Nigerians cried out. The Muslims cried out. Some of the Fulanis cried out. Christians cried out. Certain security experts cried out. But what his reappointment as minister, one, God has ordained it to be so. Two, I think that Mr. President listened to wise counsel. So we have to commend the president for listening to that wise counsel. So now now you need to know something about Nigerians. I'm not a politician, but I know some of these things. Haven't interacted with many politicians, whether it's at the federal level, it's at the state level, different states, Plateau, Kaduna, you know, I understand a few things, okay? When something good is about to come in, all kinds of people offer advice from within the government to undermine that which is good. So I think the president needs to act so that his own good intention to end this insecurity is not undermined. It did not have to take President Donald Trump to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern for the president to have acted. But be that as it may, it has happened. So let's make good capital out of the designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. I've always said this, the arguments, is there Christian genocide? Is there no Christian arguments? It's a non-starter. We don't even need to argue that in the first place.
Absolutely.
The truth is that Christians are killed in large numbers. You cannot deny that. Some of us document the killings, like you said, okay? I document the killings of Christians. I document the killings of Muslims. Because when you want to promote peace, you don't take sides. You do your best. We document also the killings of ATRs, African Traditional Religion. We document also the killings of atheists. We put all of that together. significantly, the proportion of Christians killed is a lot higher.
Yeah, and I don't think that anybody will contest the fact that much more Christians are killed, especially in Benue and Plateau and in other parts of the Middle Belt. And like you said, the more important thing is that, look, Nigerians are killed, regardless of who they are. And I think even U.S. President in his last interview with Mr. Donald Trump with New York Times has also said, look, I know that Christians are being killed in large numbers, but I also concede that Muslims are being killed. So it's important, like you said, that we should focus on the fact that Nigerians are being killed. The question I want to ask you next, is, so how do you see the military intervention of the Americans on Christmas Day? Since then, we've not had any other interventions, but we've seen that the Americans are now donating, contributing some equipments, military equipments, hardware to us. Well, what's your take? How do you read that?
The Christmas Day bombing, and I know that some people are trying to go to town to say that, it was just performative, nothing really serious took place. And that's part of the contradictions I find in Nigeria. Don't criticize just because you want to criticize or say something. I think that bombing was significant. I think that bombing sent a strong message, even if it is for the optics. It set the terrorists, by whatever name they call themselves, on notice that you will not get away with all the horrible crime against humanity that you've been committing. That's one strong message. Now, would the Americans end there? I doubt. I doubt if they will end there. Now, would some of us want to see American boots on the ground? It's a categorical no from me. I don't think I support that. Nigeria has what it takes to end these killings and all these attacks that we're talking about. I think, let's say that what President Donald Trump did from America becomes a shock treatment for the Nigerian political leadership to sit up and say, hey, we're able to handle this. That's all. Now, I think it is important that Americans should not rush to want to put boots on the ground in Nigeria. They do not need to. So they need to help the Nigerian government by providing the correct military equipment needed in intelligence gathering, the actual kind of weapons that would allow them to track down the terrorists and take them out wherever they're hidden. I think if the U.S. government can work with the Nigerian government to achieve some of these strategic objectives, it's good for everybody.
Excellent.
It's good for the Muslims. It's good for the Christians. It's good for the atheists and the ATRs. Now, let me also add that when the American bombing took place on Christmas Day, the truth of the matter is that Muslims also rejoiced. They were happy. Who does not want to see an end to all the killings?
Absolutely.
Muslims get killed. We don't deny that. Do they want it to continue? Anybody who wants to continue, that person will need to be identified because they become enemies of the state.
Okay, excellent, excellent. I don't want us to end without you talking about Leah Sharibu and also this Zidane guy in Kaduna, who we are told has been sentenced to killing by hanging. But, we are getting narratives that is actually, somebody who was trying to protect his people. So can you talk about those two people as we conclude?
Thank you very much again for giving me this opportunity to share about something that is very dear to my heart. The Paramalam Peace Foundation is one of those faith-based civil society groups that has done a lot of advocacy for the freedom of Leah Sharibu. And of course, we keep track. There are too many things that I can go into. Just 2 days ago, Tuesday night, to be specific, I got very detailed intel on Leah's situation and Leah's frame of mind. And I think, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'll just mention what is safe here, okay? So we've done this advocacy for Leah Sharibu since March 2018 till date.
And by the way, Leah Sharibu was married off to somebody.
The last information I picked up as 2 days ago is that Leah Sharibu was actually married, has now married up to 4 wives, very unfortunately.
4 husbands.
4 husbands, sorry. I'm sorry. 4 husbands, very unfortunately. A Christian girl that was kidnapped when she was only 14 from secondary school to be subjected to that kind of lifestyle, 4 husbands in a short period of 7 years, it's very, very disturbing.
Do you know
very
children?
Disheartening. Yes. And again, from that intel reports I picked up on Leah, she now has about 4 children.
Oh.
1 girl and 4 boys.
5 children, you mean?
4. Sorry, 1 girl
and
3 boys. Yes. And again, this is coming from almost like 3 husbands, you know, which is, again, painful.
Yeah, traumatic.
Yes, but, you know, Leah was also married by one of the topmost commanders, fighters in Boko Haram.
Yeah.
But that guy was taken out on December 31st, 2022, to the best of my knowledge. Yeah, I think 2022 or 2021. So that's the story now. Leah is still in captivity. And thank you for bringing her story. Please, I want to appeal to the president. President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, since when you came to power, during your campaign, and even now, you've not uttered a single word about Leah Sharibu. Many times I've wondered, you are a father. I also make the same appeal to the First Lady, Pastor Remi Senator. You are a mother. Is it fair that this government will not give priority to Leah Sharibu, for Leah to be set free? Apart from Leah, there's also Praise Austin, a Yoruba girl whose parents lived in Maiduguri. She was picked up 5 years ago. She's still in captivity, and her father died 3 years when the daughter was still there. The mother is still there living in Maiduguri. What about others like Joy? Joy is one of those Christian girls that has refused to convert to Islam till date. And she's been subjected, yes, by Boko Haram. She's been subjected to all kinds of maltreatment for her refusal to convert. What about Anna Bitus, picked up in September 2024? Again, she's still in captivity. And there are many others I can call their names.
Joy
Monica.
Kidnapped? Joy. When was Joy kidnapped?
Joy was kidnapped, I think, sometimes in 2022, to the best of my knowledge. But again, I can cross-check to confirm that. Yeah. But yes, some 2021, 2022.
Interesting. Can you just wrap up, because of our time, on the case of this Zidane guy in Kajuru local government that has been sentenced to death? What's going on?
Again, thank you very much for bringing us back to an important subject that is dear to my heart. You know, this morning I spoke with Zidane's wife. I spoke to Zidane's mom. It's very unfortunate what has happened to that young man. He's a young man in his 30s, probably mid-30s. And that young man, he's been portrayed as a murderer, as a killer. But that is not the true image and picture.
Yeah, tell our viewers what happened.
Yes.
So that they can understand.
Yes. So basically, Zidane, from what I put together, by the way, his real name is Victor Solomon.
Okay.
But he has a nickname, Zidane. Okay, perhaps after the footballer, right. Famous footballer, you know, that played for France, you know, and coached Real Madrid. The allegation from the judgment, and I have a copy of the judgment, is that he was involved in killing a farmer, and a court had tried him before and freed him, but then another trial took place and he was found guilty
for the same
of murder, for the same offense.
Offense?
Exactly. This is, yes, for the same offense. It's actually reminding me of the Jackson's scenario and situation. So
I mean, people in America, they call that double jeopardy, that you don't get tried
exactly.
twice on the same offense,
Yes.
except there are technicalities in the trial.
So those are some of those things that are being fine-tuned and worked on. Let me also say that.
So he was sentenced to. He was now sentenced to death.
Yes, by hanging.
After the second trial.
Yes,
for the same offense.
Yes,
from which he has been freed before.
From what I picked up, yes, from what I picked up, okay, it would have been helpful to have both judgments, but I just have the first judgment. So I think we're working on getting it.
The first judgment is the one that freed him.
Yes, I think so.
In the same state.
In the same state. Yeah, that's what we heard. That's what we had until I lay hold on the first judgment. I have the second one. Okay? But so what is it? His offense that he killed a farmer. But when I spoke to the wife said they were living in a situation of constant violence where people get killed, and Adara communities and villages were raided and attacked, and many of them got killed. Incidentally, some of these things occurred at the time that, God bless his memory, the chief of Adara was actually killed. So there was a lot of killings of the Adara people. And Zidane was one of the strong young men who decided they would defend their communities. So if you say he has denied the offense, if you read the judgment, he denied the offense. The only thing is that some of his statements were made, those statements would have been taken before the judgment or during the trial, but there was a little bit of delay. So when he denied and presented his own side of the story, because it was done at the late hour, it was not quite accepted from the judges. That's what I think. Okay, but the good news is that the defense team, as at this morning, is actually working to appeal the judgment against Victor Solomon Musa. So let's pray that the courts would allow this accused human dignity and he will not be killed. I personally believe that, and I pray and I hope that he will be set free.
We will be following up on the case. We will get more details and do our best to ensure that there is fairness and there is equity and there is justice. Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Gideon Pera Malam. Thank you for your work, global missions. Thank you for the work of peace that you are doing in Middle Belt. And I know that you're also a member of the Plateau State Peace Committee. And thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you so much, my dear brother. Olaolu, it's good to, I last met you when you were in the Villa presidency, the Villa. So it's a privilege to see that you've put on what I call the journalist collar.
That's my job. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome back to Inside Sources Elder Stateswoman Anke Briggs. Good to see you again. I want to talk with you specifically about what is going on in Rivers State, this second or third round of impeachment proceedings and whatnot. But just before we get to that, I wanted to ask you, what is your own take about the Nigerian security situation, especially with what we had on Christmas Day with the Americans helping us out to go after the terrorists? I wanted to ask you that before we come to Rivers.
Thank you. You see, when you get help from someone, it means that you can't help yourself, that you're unable to help yourself, or you're incapable, or you refuse to help yourself. But when you find yourself in that position, it's not the best of positions to find yourself in, whether you're a person, group of people, or whether you're a country. In this case, Nigeria, the largest Black nation in the world, and also the largest country in the continent of Africa, is sad and it's embarrassing. But the question I asked on that day, I asked myself, was that what is the cost to us What is are we paying a price? When we say thank you, what do we mean? Watching what is going on around the world and watching particularly what is going on between the government of America as headed by Donald Trump and what his government is doing around the world, from the issue with the Russians, with the country they attacked, with Ukraine, thank you very much, with what is unfolding in Gaza, with what is what finally happened in Sokoto, the bombing of Sokoto. The story we all know in Nigeria is that we have been invaded before ever Trump became even the first president in his own right as a president. Before Biden, we have had issues with people coming in from outside of Nigeria. So it didn't start in Tinubu's time. It didn't start in Buhari's time. It didn't start in Jonathan's time. It started actually in Obasanjo's time, when we were led to accept that the issue of Sharia is really a non-issue, according to the then president, and allowing a particular religion to become a state, almost a state religion in Nigeria. So this is a problem that has been building up to this point. And yes, Christians were being killed, are still being killed. We have been invaded by terrorists. Everybody knows that. But if we are looking for help, what are the terms of the help? And I always say, even in Rivers State, I always ask, when you agree to something, what are the terms? When I agree with you to even to do this interview, we have both agreed. We've agreed on a time. We've agreed on certain things. Right. And so we cannot be doing this interview if those things have not been fulfilled, or is not assured of being fulfilled. Right. So I find myself in-depthly questioning things that go on in my name. And so, I mean, even this attack on terrorists by the American government, Nigerians have to know we know the price we're paying by the invasion of strangers into our country for over 2 decades. And we should also be asking ourselves that in Trump's first tenure, he was the one that declared, and rightly so, that there is an issue with Christians being killed, at least unless if we're saying that the pictures that were shown are not real. If not, I think we all agreed that Christians were being killed. And then I think we also now accept that also Muslims are being killed. So, but the invasion of Sokoto, as it has happened, has it stopped the insecurity? That's a question to ask. And what have we gotten ourselves involved in by this act by America? We can accept that they're doing us a favor, but what favor? What price are we paying for the favor they are doing? And where did we find ourselves? How did Nigeria, that is supposed to be the light for Blacks all over the world, you and I, and that Nigeria is supposed to be the giant of Africa, how did we end up becoming the ant of Africa, in my analysis, to this point? So, yes, I have concerns, because now, are we having Americans protecting us 24/7? And are we giving to the Americans for this protection, because Donald Trump does not seem to be somebody who does something for nothing. So what have we entangled ourselves in? So for me, those are my concerns. I'm not saying we shouldn't have asked for help if we can't help ourselves, but Nigerians need to know what price we're paying. Like when we borrow money, why are we borrowing the money? And what are the terms of the money? And where is the repayment coming from? And the money we're borrowing, exactly, what is it achieving for us? You know, I think that Nigerians have a right and must continue to exercise that right. To ask these very pertinent questions that relate to our future and our children's future.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I wanted your take on that. So let's move on quickly to what is happening in Rivers State. I mean, you hail from Rivers State, you know, and you've been quite, you know, outspoken about the need for good governance, focus on the people. Now we have this Rivers State House of Assembly. They have commenced, you know, I think at least the second time in a year or thereabout, an impeachment proceedings against the sitting governor. And the allegation essentially is that the governor, is not ruling according to the Constitution. Now, I'm sure that, as you know, you also know, like a lot of Nigerians know, that there are a lot of undercurrents. But I want to ask you, how do you read the situation in Rivers State, a very important state in our country, where you hail for, the tension that is going on in that state currently? What's your read of that?
Happily for me, I'm in a position to speak authoritatively. I'm not a politician. I don't think like a politician. I'm a daughter of Rivers State. I'm a daughter of the Niger Delta. And then, of course, I'm a daughter of Nigeria, because Rivers State and Niger Delta is in Nigeria. Right. The question that all Rivers people, if not all of us, are asking, then the rest of us who are not asking should be asking, is that where really are we standing in this issue of some people in Rivers State, and they know themselves, and I know them, and they know that I know them, and Rivers people know them. Where are they deriving the powers that they are using to destabilize Rivers State? Because what is happening in Rivers State is destabilization of the government of Sasemila Ifobra, and therefore literally punishing the people of Rivers State who have committed no crime. Now, I have never believed, and I don't believe, and I will never believe, that there is a need or that anybody has a right to declare himself or herself the godfather of somebody politically. The only place where we have exercised godfather is in the church. And this is supposed to be somebody who is godly, following the ways of God, representing God in the life of one person or 10 people or whatever the case may be, or the churches that require them. The church I go to do not require that you have a godfather in the church. There are some churches where you have to have a godfather, and it's only one church. Now, these questions are very pertinent to the people of Rivers State and the type of governance that is delivered to the people of Rivers State.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that insight. One last question, you know, and I'll let you go. So the conduct of the members of the House of Assembly in Rivers State is what I wanted to talk about. I'll give you a view, and then you can please respond. It will seem to me that they have been bought, because Wike himself had told the whole country that he paid the nomination form for everybody in the National Assembly, State Assembly, and anybody who contested any election, including the governor and deputy governor. So now the members of the House of Assembly, they seem to be playing to that card, that this was the guy that funded us. My position is that, how is it that you have a bunch of adults, behaving in a way that undermines the responsibility, the authority that they have, not to be able to separate issues and say that, look, even though you supported us, now we have sworn an oath to deliver peace and prosperity to Rivers State. Now, I find that very troubling, that a bunch of adults cannot imagine to say to Wike and say, look, Oga, this is a very sensitive matter. How do you read that? How can we read ourselves in this country? Because this is not just a Rivers State problem, of people who feel that they have been, quote unquote, betrothed to somebody, regardless of the good governance in the state and the country. Last question, Madam.
Many times, Nigeria's situation is such a complex situation. It shouldn't be, but it is. Many times you can't answer these questions without explaining that you understand, truly understand the setup. The former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, I think his name is.
Yes.
He had issues with EFCC. And what then happened was that when EFCC wanted to arrest him, the governor that he put in place, drove all the way from Kogi and came and extradited him out of his house in Abuja, and took him to government house in Kogi. It just shows you the type of politics you have just described. If not, how can adults, where did the governor of Rivers State get the money that he used to buy all those forms for everybody he bought it for? It's Rivers State people's money that he used, which he had no right to do. Nobody has a right to buy that many forms.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elder Stateswoman Hankyo Briggs. Thank you for your views. Thank you for the courage of your views, and thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. It means that Nigeria will win, partly because we will keep raising the important issues. Thank you for watching. My name is Laulu Akonde, and by the grace of God, I'll see you at the next edition.